Now this would be an interesting move for the San Francisco Giants that, quite frankly, makes a little too much sense. We're going to break down here on SF Giants Digest the veteran starting pitcher, the Hall of Famer, and close friend of new Giants manager Tony Vitello coming to the orange and black this winter. We have it all here on the channel, so make sure to go down below, hit the subscribe button, as we'll have all of the breaking news, rumors, coverage throughout the winter, throughout the entire offseason we'll have here on the channel. So make sure to go down below and hit subscribe to SF Giants Digest. But of course, this video, we are talking about the future Hall of Famer, right-handed pitcher, Max Scherzer, who, yes, is coming to towards the end of his career. He didn't have it quite as well as he has before this season, but he showed some flashes this postseason. He's still a talented starting pitcher, and we've seen some success with the Giants signing, guys into their early 40s, as we saw with Justin Verlander in 2025. So we're going to break down this possible fit and why it is such a good fit between Tony Vitello, the San Francisco Giants, and Max Scherzer. Now, to start, I did put out this tweet during the World Series saying Scherzer signing with the Giants is so obvious. This was right around the time that Tony Vitello was announced as the manager, and I wasn't, saying that the Giants should go out and sign Max Scherzer. I wasn't saying it was a good idea, saying it was a bad idea. I didn't say it was, for sure going to happen. I was just saying that this idea is so obvious and so blatantly clear because of the relationship between Max Scherzer and new Giants manager Tony Vitello. I got a lot of pushback on this. I got people, telling me that is a stupid idea to GTFO, which I can't say that here, but if you know what that means, you know. And then I also got some people saying, bring back Verlander and Scherzer rewrite at 2012, which was pretty funny. But a lot of mixed emotions around this possible idea between Max Scherzer and the San Francisco Giants. But it isn't absolutely crazy. This comes from Sports Illustrated. This is what Max Scherzer had to say about the Giants bringing in Tony Vitello as the first guy to jump from college baseball to a big league manager role. He said, "I'm just so happy for him. Happy he got the opportunity to be able to get to the big leagues. I've been friends with him my whole time, ever since Mizzou. I know the fire in him. I know the passion that he has. I've always believed in him, even when he got the job in Tennessee. I knew he was the right man for the job. He showed you what he can do at the college level. I'm sure there's going to be doubters here, but kudos to Buster Posey for recognizing what a leader he is. I know Tony is a leader. He's going to bring an energy and a fire to that clubhouse, and the players are definitely going to respond because of that." Now, this brings a lot of confidence to Giants fan base, to Buster Posey, just on the hire of Tony Vitello, but this also shows how close of a relationship that the new Giants manager and the Hall of Famer have, because for those that did not know, Tony Vitello actually recruited and coached Max Scherzer at the University of Missouri before Max Scherzer was the level of pitcher and Hall of Famer we know him to be today. So this relationship has been going on for, 2 decades almost. And this is why there's reason to believe that the Giants will be interested in bringing in Max Scherzer this offseason. Now, furthermore, the AroundTheFoghorn.com, which is part of Fansided, pointed this out. With Justin Verlander concluding a possible one-and-done deal with the Giants, there's a spot open for a 40-something future Hall of Famer in the rotation. Enter Max Scherzer. Scherzer's very good friends with Vitello, which we've been talking about. He originally recruited him. The two have been great friends for decades since, not to mention Scherzer is a bulldog whose give-me-the-ball mentality is exactly what Buster Posey covets from his players. And I think this is a big point because, yes, the relationship between Vitello and Max Scherzer is obvious. We've known this, since Vitello was floated. We see it right here that they've been really close for a long time. But Max Scherzer's mentality is exactly what Buster Posey is looking for. Yes, he might not be as talented in terms of, preventing runs as he was during his dominant run as a starting pitcher with the Nationals, the Tigers, but the mentality hasn't changed. We saw it in I believe the ALCS when the Blue Jays pitching coach came out and Scherzer was like, "Nope, I'm staying in this game." You can kind of see him yelling at him, which that's something the Giants need, and that's part of why they brought in Tony Vitello. Buster Posey said that they needed a little bit more fire. He talked about, villains. Being a villain in baseball isn't necessarily a bad thing. He even talked about how, yes, Buster Posey seemed friendly on the field. He wasn't one to show a ton of emotion, but he said when players came up to the batting box and Buster Posey was back there in the squat, he was not friendly with them. He was competitive. He was, fiery back there. So I do think that outside of the relationship between Tony Vitello and Max Scherzer, there is a fit, and not only because of his mentality, but the Giants need starting pitching. That is no secret. the front office, the owners have been very outspoken that starting pitching and pitching in general is going to be the focus of the offseason. And it makes sense. The rotation was extremely depleted towards the end of last year. You had Kai Wei Tang starting games down the line, Carson Seymour, Tristan Beck, which if you're in a postseason race or a playoff race, a wild card race, you want, a little more certainty about what you're going to get from the starting pitcher at the back of the rotation. And we saw with Justin Verlander, yes, it started a little bit rough, but down the stretch, he was arguably the Giants' best starter for the last 2 months. He went on an insane run, and when Logan Webb had a tough July, Robbie Ray had a tough September, Justin Verlander was solid. He had a 4 or 5 stretch start stretch, where he was very, very good and did not allow a ton of runs. He was in line for wins a lot of the time. And if we're being honest, Justin Verlander's stat line from the year should be a bit better. The bullpen did not help him out in any ways. So yes, we can get into some of the numbers with Max Scherzer this year. He's not as good as he was, but there is a bit of upside when you look at coming to Oracle Park, pitching in a pitcher's ballpark, things of that nature that could kind of bring some optimism to the possibility of bringing in Max Scherzer to the San Francisco Giants. Now, Max Scherzer did say after the World Series he intends to keep playing. From John Heyman, he reported, "I can't see how that's the last pitch I've ever thrown." Now, he did preface this by saying, I'll give you guys a more full answer or a better answer a little bit later. He was still reacting to losing the World Series. He started Game 7 and did very well for the Blue Jays to start Game 7. Only allowed a 1 earned run across 4 1/3 innings pitched. He was very good for them to start Game 7 against a loaded Dodgers lineup, even though they weren't performing well. But he said, this is not going to be it most likely. He doesn't see how he can end on losing the World Series. He's still hungry to win more. He wants to do more, whether it's another year or 3 more years, whatever he wants to do throughout the rest of his career. He intends on to keep pitching. So he kind of shut down the idea of him retiring right away. Now, if they would have won the World Series, it might be completely different. Going out on top would be awesome. So it could have changed his ideology when the Blue Jays ended up losing the World Series, but the latest we have is that he intends to keep pitching. Now, like I said, the numbers haven't been great. This is his baseball reference page, and yes, when you look at his career, 75 wins above replacement with a 3.22 earned run average in almost 3,000 innings across your career, that's a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. You see in the top right corner, a 3-time Cy Young winner, an 8-time All-Star, a 2-time World Series champion. Max Scherzer has had a career that rivals few. He's been one of the best starting pitchers in baseball for a long time. And yes, he's slowed down across the last 2 or 3 seasons. And if you look at the 2025 stat line towards the bottom right there, you see only 0.2 B-WAR, 5-5 record, a 5.19 earned run average in 85 innings. Only started 17 games. There's no doubt that Justin Verlander had a better season this year, but if you're looking to bring in an older veteran starting pitcher to help the clubhouse, bring a bit of fire, and then be a semi-reliable starter at the back end of the rotation, Max Scherzer is going to be a much cheaper option than Justin Verlander, just because of how good Justin Verlander performed, the last 2 months of the season, kind of post All-Star break, post trade deadline. So I do think that it is an extremely interesting move for the Giants to possibly bring in Max Scherzer. I'm sure Tony Vitello would love it just to have a familiar face as he transitions into this role where he's been clear about there's a lot of unknowns for him. He's never managed a big league bullpen. He's never dealt with the challenge system, the ABS that nobody's dealt with, but a lot of things that Tony Vitello is not familiar with, Max Scherzer can almost be kind of a player coach in a way and help him, transition better to a major league dugout. So I do think it's an interesting fit. The Giants obviously need starting pitching. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the possible move of Buster Posey, Zach Manassian, and obviously Tony Vitello, possibly bringing in a 41, 42-year-old Max Scherzer to be kind of that fifth starter, a leader in the clubhouse. Let me know what you think of that down in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to SF Giants Digest.